So, we all want to be stars. The hell was that? Oh, my laptop. The idea of celebrity is one that we fantasize about. I suppose some people also fantasize about being president, being someone of power or in power, capable of making decisions. Some people pursue those aspirations, those dreams, and some people break under the responsibility. I suppose I fear that breaking under responsibility, which is why I've been so avoidant of being given responsibility. I think if you know me, or you get to know me, you see or get a sense that I am capable of being bestowed upon a great deal of responsibility. The problem is I don't want it. When it comes to financial compensation, the more responsibility you have, the more money you are given. Money isn't everything, and there's a lot of facets to the human circle of life. And so that's that. It is February 25th. My birthday was yesterday, and it was nice. I just kind of was allowing myself, I allowed myself to, well, I guess I should say I wasn't depressed out of my mind, which is nice. I have been paying a little bit too much attention to what's been going on with Trump and all this stuff that I've had to take little breaks here and there because it is wild and it is crazy. Not necessarily what he's doing or his team is doing, more so I have so many thoughts, and not all of them I feel are important because you just never know how the future is going to shape out, and and Trump isn't the only Trump there's been, right? There've been other presidents who have been controversial, if not more so controversial. And we move on and we keep on keeping on and we do better and better and better because as a civilian, you don't have the responsibility of making the world a better place. You do have the power to make the world a better place, not because you as a civilian is powerful. It is the collective that is powerful. And you are a part of that collective as an individual. And so there's power in you. It's like a single drop in the ocean isn't really powerful. It won't affect the ocean. It is the collective drops of water that make the ocean the ocean. And there's connection. Every single drop of water is the same. And so when one drop of water no longer can fill the ocean, then what does that mean for the rest of the drops of water? Which is where politics, which is where we are in politics, which is why Trump got elected and why people like Trump will continue to get elected. People will let their fear of being the drop of water not in the ocean get in the way of making rational decisions. And so I mentioned about how I need to take a break from like the news cycle and stuff, and I I can't do anything about what's going on in the world. Even if I was president, I couldn't do anything about what's going on in the world because there are different worlds. The presidency and people in government are all people who are living lives that they feel affects everybody. And I don't see it that way. The way I see it is, it's you all are doing your social thing, right? They say humans can only have a social circle of like 200 people max, right? And so that's basically everybody in Congress. So you all are in your social circle, and the reason why you're all there is because you all share this desire to live a life where you think you affect other people. And you can make laws, and those laws we know about, and it might influence our day to day in terms of, depending on what the law is. Like if the law says, and here's the other thing too, not really, because there's been laws like against marijuana for the longest time, and has that stopped people from smoking marijuana? No, it's made it harder, because you're not going to control what people do. You're just going to control how they get affected. And what I ask of our leaders is that they understand this. And it just sucks because not everyone would understand this. These elected people represent groups, and these groups are a crazy amount of groups. I'm not sure how true this is. I heard the model for the US Constitution was mirrored the original Native American system of governing with themselves. So you hear stories about their savagery, and then you also hear that they also had like really, and that makes sense because look at us, right? I mean, goddamn, we're savage. If you look at the news, as much as I've been looking at the news, like, yeah, anyone from the outside looking in would say, goddamn, these guys are savages. And at the same time, we are operating governmental systems, and this is the larger we. The thing is, the needs of a Californian are going to be different than the needs of a Texan. And that's very complicated when it comes to governing an entire country, because you can't just cater to one group. And at the same time, these groups elect their leaders to fight for them. And so you think, oh, all this turmoil, this bickering, this anger back and forth this is not how a government should be operating. Well, then how should a government be operating when every single person was elected to represent their groups, and all of these groups are fighting for themselves? How else are we supposed to operate, you know? Um, I would venture to say that we need more education. The thing is, education doesn't make you a good person. In fact, a lot of the people responsible for some of the, like, for example, the Nazi regime, a lot of those people were really educated. Did that stop them from killing 6 million Jews and 6 million other people, like, that included homosexuals and non people of faith and conscientious objectors, activists? Like, they also murdered 6 million of those people who weren't Jews, so and so they murdered 12 million. Also, if you're taking into account the wars and stuff. So it's like, and these people were educated too. So that being educated doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you emotionally intelligent, because there is a difference between being emotionally intelligent and academically intelligent. You can know 2 plus 2 equals 4, but that doesn't really matter if you can't look someone in the eye and feel their suffering and feel their pain. Ideally, you want both. You want to be able to say 2 plus 2 equals 4, and at the same time be able to look somebody in the eye and be like, I feel you. Now, people would say that's what Trump is. That's why Trump got elected, because he was doing that for a bunch of people. I believe them. I do. I also feel like he's a con man. I feel like he's tricked a lot of people into thinking that he cares because of his own desires to be historic and etch his name into the history's books, which he has done, and he will. And I mean, he's done it. Congratulations. You're going to be an historical figure that you can find in history books hundreds of years down the road. Thousands, though? I mean, a civilizations ebb and flow. There's no guarantee that ours is gonna last forever. Even though I do think it's gonna last for a long time. I don't. I think the days where civilizations collapse are ever present because of natural disasters. I mean, these civilizations in the past collapsed because of things outside of their control. COVID-19 happened, and we hopped on that, and now Trump is trying to get rid of all the tools that we used to be able to do that. You have RFK Jr., who is like an anti-vaxxer, and so they've really made it harder to, I guess, trust, which is, I mean, obviously, I don't agree. I don't agree that there are people who should be in that position. I think they're stupid. I know they're stupid. You could tell. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, you got your name in the history books. Assuming that human existence can survive and not go extinct like the way of the dinosaurs, who's to say, like, for example, can anybody name any figure from Greek history, Roman history? Sure. They're not really part of our day-to-day understanding. And will those figures that have lasted through the books and stuff, will they continue to last? Because if anyone's played the game telephone, you know how difficult it can be when you have groups of a lot of different people, when you're transferring that message back and forth. Some of that stuff can get skewed, so the names of these people might not even be the truth. I think, and I'm speaking, what's motivating me to speak right now in terms of what I'm saying is like science. So like humans have this thing called short-term memory and long-term memory. And because humans created government and keep track of history, then all of these things that they teach in school are fallible to the human condition. So, for example, humans have a short-term memory and long-term memory. So, you might remember what happened yesterday. It was the dude who cut you off. You're also more prone to remember the stuff that pisses you off instead of like the birds in the sky or how beautiful the weather was. You tend to forget about that stuff easier. Um, but we do forget, you know. If short-term memory, if something that happened in the short-term memory makes it to long-term memory, then we tend to forget the details of it and we just remember like the big thing that happened. Oh, terrorists hit the World Trade Center. But we don't really remember what people were talking about when it happened, um, unless it affected you in a deep way, right? Pearl Harbor, right? That's something that happened in the short term memory when it happened in that moment, and now all these years later, we don't we don't really think about it all the time, and we don't really remember the details the way that because I mean I wasn't alive during Pearl Harbor, but I can imagine what the media cycle was like, right? Oh, this happened here. Like for example, COVID, right? COVID has happened in the short term memory. That's something that's going to happen in the long term memory, and so everyone's talking about the labs that it came out of in Wuhan or whatever, and the scientists and stuff like that. And it's like I don't know, man. Long term memory is something. Is definitely something. And so we keep information in history books. We remember artists and musicians and pieces of art, and these things survive for sure. And we do our best to make sure the motivation behind them also exists and permeates through time. But it's fallible, is all I'm saying, because everything that humans do is fallible. And that's also why I find it tiring to keep up with the news. But it's also something that I have to do. Like I mean, I don't have to do it. I guess I should be more specific. What I say when I say have to keep up with the news, I mean like for like as much as it like exhausts me mentally, and it does make me think a lot, which is exhausting. It's not. I would be worse off if I were just sitting in my bed playing video games all day. Because when I'm playing video games, I don't really have to think. I don't really have to think. I'm that good at video games. And I know that there are other video games out there who are experiencing depression, who play video games, and then they trick themselves into thinking, oh yeah, I'm thinking hard about this. That's one of the reasons why people like the FromSoft games, is because it's a challenge. And it's like, I mean, I guess it's a challenge if you're not good at video games. And the only people who are not really good at video games are people who don't play video games regularly. Let me let you in on a little secret here, homeboy. Yeah, not that hard. I mean, you can play the game over and over and over again, and eventually you'll get it. You'll get it. It doesn't really require that much thought. You tell yourself it does because you're sick and you're not prepared to better yourself. You're suffering from depression. You don't know how to handle your own treatment, which is why mental health and science and medical care is so important. None of this is easy, man. None of this is easy at all. So I feel for you. I think it's the job of a politician. It's a job, and all jobs have specific requirements. They require certain attitudes. People can do a job well, they can do a job poorly. It just depends on the individual. It also depends on the job itself. No shade. No worries. Don't you worry about a thing. Everybody needs a chance to check out the new. But you're the only one who sees the changes you take yourself through. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing. Man, life is tough. Life is tough. And I was having a thought, an idea. Like I was driving around this morning after I got my coffee and hash browns. And the weather was just so nice. And I was thinking, man, I feel so nostalgic. This is beautiful. I'm remembering when I was a kid and I was hanging around other kids. And it was inspiring me to write some stuff. And it was basically me saying, like, hey, we chase nostalgia because it's so much harder to be in the moment the way a kid is in the moment. The way a kid's brain is they're not lamenting over how things could be or where things went wrong. They're only adapting to the present moment, whatever it is. I'm talking, and this is universal for kids everywhere, whether they're in a traumatic place in the world, or whether they're living in the life of luxury. Every kid is developing brain patterns that adapt to the situation that they're in. And so there is no contemplation happening. It's all just in the moment. Okay, this is my world, this is my reality, so let me adapt to it. The problem with depression and the thing about nostalgia is that you're constantly looking back at times and you say to yourself, oh man, these were the good old days and this and that, and in reality it's not even the fact that the times were objectively better or worse. It's just that you weren't depressed because you were just in the moment experiencing things, and then it shapes you into the person that you are. And then you take that person that gets formed through these experiences out into the real world with other people that come from different places. Think about how different someone grows up just in the house over next to you. There will be a completely different person, and we rely on shared experiences to bring us together, like movies and video games, entertainment really. Also books, let's do that too, writing and stuff. And as for me, yeah, things are tough. I'm not doing any of that stuff, and that's just kind of where I'm at right now. And it's good that I feel like it's tough, because that means I'm not happy with where I'm at. I'm not content to be living the way I'm living right now. And so I'm hopeful that soon I will be inspired enough, or opportunity will come knocking at my door somewhere, or that I'll go looking for opportunities to get with like-minded people, birds of a feather, so we can flock together. Because I'm not a bad person. I am good company to keep. It's also on me too, because I don't want to just hang around with anybody. I want to hang around with cool people. People who, like me, think deeply about stuff. People who are literate. And I don't blame you, let's be real. For a long time, I was not reading books. For a long time, I didn't care to read books. I didn't see the value in reading books. Well, I mean, that's not really true. I mean, I always knew that there was value in it. It's just that I stopped doing it because I was dealing with, like, my marijuana smoking and my video game addiction. And just living comfortably. Just overall, just being comfortable with where I was at in life. And I'm not comfortable to be where I'm at anymore. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy getting to that next step. Because I've been trying to get to that next step for a while. I've been singing a lot more, which has been nice. I have thought often about auditioning again for plays and local theater stuff. Yeah. The Lakers will be playing against the Mavericks today. Luka Doncic. He has a tattoo on his arm right here, and then he has a tattoo on his back. And every time I see talented people with so much potential, with tattoos, it always makes me think. I wonder huh, I guess this person's life is not really going great, because let's be real. Aside from any cultural stuff, getting a tattoo is usually a symbol of turbulence. Your life, you definitely don't feel great about your life if you go and get a tattoo, especially big tattoos. It's a sign. It's a sign of how you feel about your life. Everybody, chance to check out the news. And so LeBron has a gang of tattoos. And I'm like, damn, man. Kobe Bryant had so many tattoos. And it's stuff that, as a kid, you don't really realize. It's only now that I'm 31 that I'm like, oh, these people that I idolized, I might I might prefer my life over theirs. I mean, obviously that's not to say that my life is where I want it to be. That hurt. Ooh, that chorizo be popping, bro. Pause. But think about it, right? Like Kobe Bryant, he was isolating. That's a sign of depression, when you're isolating and wanting to disappear from the world. And if you don't believe me, you don't have to. Just hear about the stories about how he would lock himself in the gym. He'd be the first one there and the last one out. It's like, that's not healthy. and people give him a pass because he won 5 rings. And they say, see, this is how you do it. And I find that really messed up, because it inspired a whole generation of people who were working in a very unhealthy way because they wanted to be like Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant wanted to be like Michael Jordan. It's one of those situations where it's like, well, just be yourself. Be you. And I know that's kind of hard to do when you're not winning in a competition. When you're living the life of an athlete, your life, you think your life is about winning, and it might feel that way because that's the world you come from. And I'm here to tell you, it ain't. Your job is not to necessarily win championships, although as a fan, we would love to see that, obviously. Your job is not to win championships. Your job is not to please the fans. And I know that's kind of hard to believe, because your bosses want you to please the fans, because the fans are the ones that pay the bosses. Normally. I'll tell you, everyone who owns a team is going to start to have their heart pumping fast if no one's showing up to watch the games. And they might go into crisis mode. And so you think it's your responsibility to make the fans happy. And it's not. It really isn't. Your job is to travel the world, going to all these different cities, going to different countries when you play in the Olympics. Your job is to get as much experience, worldly experience, as you can, and then be a well-rounded individual. Because you do have the opportunity that other people really don't have the opportunity to do. And that's be an ambassador for the greater good of humanity. Because as an athlete, your words are on a public stage. And obviously, being a public athlete is not the only instance where this is possible. You don't have to be a public athlete to see the world. You can do that working in your bank job and stuff. So this is why I get so exhausted thinking about all this stuff, because the implications, right? It's like, okay, well, what about the people who pay the bank people? Like, there is so much money going around. This is a very rich country. And then you have someone like Donald Trump who's telling Ukraine, give us half, give us $500 billion. It's very frustrating. It's very mean. It's a very mean thing to do. Let other countries have their wealth too. I don't get the fear. They're afraid to let these other countries be independent because, well, I'm not here to justify fear. Fear is so irrational. Fear is just the most irrational thing ever. And if you don't agree with me, I'll put it to you like this. Fear will make you change your habits. Fear happens when a momentary thing causes enough trauma in your head, in your short-term memory, like I was talking about earlier, that you change your long-term habits. That's what trauma is. And so you think, okay, well, a small country like the Ukraine, what are they going to do with $500 billion? Take over the world? Well, if you look, Japan got pretty powerful and they're just an island. Britain got pretty powerful and they're just an island. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for physically or geometrically small countries to have a great influence. Which is why I say it's important not just to be intellectually intelligent, one must also be emotionally intelligent. Especially when people are intelligent, they have the most responsibility to be emotionally responsive to people's needs. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy, because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the people she represents, have needs that the people, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene represents. It runs contradictory to each other because there's only a finite amount of resources. And so people really do revert back to their primitive thinking because we still have our parts of our brain that were around during those primitive days of our lives. And that might be worth examining. Because I don't think there is such a thing as primitive. I think that's something we label people or animals as when we just fail to appreciate them for what they are. Because we think we have to continue to evolve and be better and stronger. Oh, more technology, more money, more this. Because people who think like that are aware of death, and they're only behaving according to how they grew up in their worlds with all this information. Everyone is aware of death. Not everyone had a mom or a dad to talk to about it. Some people talk to their mom and dad about it and were lied to, talking about there's a heaven. Some people talk to their mom and dad, and their mom and dad didn't lie to them. They said, you know what, honey? We don't know if there is or isn't. That's the truth. We don't know if there is or isn't. But that's a much harder pill to swallow than to just say definitively yes or no. So we lie because it makes things easier. Because it is exhausting to think critically. Like I'm exhausted right now. Jesus Christ. I was feeling super nostalgic on the road today, and I was remembering the days when I used to go to movies with people, and I actually have never really been a social person now that I think about it. I mean, I do have experiences when I've had a group of people whom I associated with as a kid, as a teenager. But it's really hard when you're smart, because true intelligence is really, it's rare. Whatever true means. I think for me, I'm using it like Einstein is smart. Like that kind of intelligence is super rare. And I don't show my intelligence to people very often. But it's there. It's there. And I guess I'm just at a place now where I am realizing maybe I'm needed. maybe I'm these times, everything that's been happening with COVID, with Trump, these have all just been signs for me, right? For me to interpret as signs for me to be like, hey, you need to start living. You need to start. You need to start speaking your mind more. And then I'm over here like, oh, but what if I get shot like King, like X, like Biggie, like Tupac? Notice how all these people that I mentioned are black. I'll be honest. I secretly yearn to know more about Latino history. And I will. I definitely will. Shout outs to museums. Shout outs to education centers. These are tough times, and it's a cliche because it's true what I'm about to say. Tough times don't last, tough people do. Tough times are the forge where we get to craft our steel. It becomes our resolve. It pisses me off that a dummy like Trump, a dummy like Musk, can be doing all of these really dumb things that are hurting a lot of people, Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, all these people that enable them to do their shit. And I'm over here. I guess you can say I'm enabling them because I'm not doing anything about it. People like that can get away with it because we enable them. They're mentally ill. They are the drug addicts, and we are society that just looks the other way. Like, not my life, not my problem. Or we're the parents who buy them the drugs. And it's like, yeah, here, you can keep on smoking it. The thing about enabling is it's not really that simple. It's not 2 plus 2. It happens in ways that are very complicated and really beyond understanding. That's why therapy and treating mental illness is just so very complicated, because it has nothing to do with, oh, your diet, your eating. These are all just symptoms. These are all just like, they're not the cure. It's not like you just go jog and then you're done being depressed. No. Not wanting to exercise, I think, is a symptom of depression. I think if anyone is living healthy, if anyone is in an environment where they're allowed to be themselves, then you're normally going to want to exercise. Everybody normally wants to exercise because it's fun. The way everyone wants to drink and eat, it's part of our existence and our... You know who doesn't want to run? The snail. The snail doesn't want to run. You know who doesn't want to run? The crab. The crab doesn't want to run. It would be unhealthy for these things to run because they can't. They don't have legs. So when it comes to human beings, we naturally want to run. We do. We naturally want to be active and exercise because it's literally what we're designed to do. It's just that mental health is a bitch. It really is. Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's it for today, February 25th, 2025, baby. We're rounding out the first. We're halfway through the first quarter. So we still got 3 more quarters and a half to go. So March doesn't really have any holidays. It is my dad's birthday and my sister's birthday. But then we get into April, baby, and then we have Easter and April Fool's Day. I'll end the video by saying politics, the state of politics, is a representation of the mental health of the people that they represent. That's what I'll say. And it's tricky because mental health, being mentally healthy, can mean different things for different people. But there are constants. There are some elements that are the same for everybody's mental health. Life, man. It's so fun.